So, maybe you noticed there's a bit of eyeliner on my eye. I don't know which one actually, it's just in one of them. I think it's this one? I might be wrong though. There's a bit of eyeliner in my eye because something really interesting actually happened yesterday. I did my first performance ever and it was something. It was pretty good honestly, but I was really nervous and stuff. Anyhow, eyeliner. There's eyeliner in my face. Recently I've watched the new Annabelle movie, you know, Annabelle Comes Home. And I've been thinking about it a bit because I really like horror movies. Ever since I was, I don't know, 12. I've always loved horror stuff in general. I used to be one of those creepypasta kids. I read all about them, you know, on the internet when they were big. I was really terrified of Slender Man. I mean, yeah. If you really think about it, Slender Man makes no sense. I mean, that whole guy without a face that snatches kids from anywhere in the world, no matter what the kids have done. I mean, even if it existed, the chance you would get snatched by it was like really tiny, so why would I be worried about it? Anyhow, I was terrified of it. Terrified. I spent countless nights up because I was afraid of Slender Man and how it could affect my life. Actually, once I was reading a book, it was a book in English. You know those 31 Clues series of books? I think it's Vesper's Rising. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Vesper's Rising. And there was one description of a character that said Slender. Just because it says Slender, I spent 2 nights up because, oh my god, it says Slender. Now Slender Man knows who I am. It's gonna come to, I don't know, slap me in the face or something. Annabelle Comes Home, isn't it? Annabelle Comes Home, yeah. I think the movie itself was kind of meh. You know, it isn't a bad movie in any way. It was way better than The Nun, which was a really bad movie. If you're gonna start in the Conjuring universe, I think you actually can start by Annabelle Comes Home. It's not the best. It's far from the best. I think the best is still the first Conjuring one. But please don't start with The Nun, because you're never gonna watch any other. It's a terrible movie. It's a terrible movie. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen. But yeah, the thing is, I actually don't want to talk specifically about Annabelle Comes Home, although the video is literally titled Not Quite an Annabelle Comes Home review. I want to talk about horror movies in general because I really like them. I really love horror movies. I really do. They're great and they make me feel great at the end of them, which is the fun part. I don't know if you know this. You probably do because I mention it every 2 seconds in every video that I make. I have a few anxiety problems. I've had some quite serious anxiety problems in the past. Right now I'm pretty okay. I'm treated. I've even stopped taking my meds because the psychiatrist told me so, not because I stopped by myself. And I'm good. I'm treated. I'm in a good moment in my life. But I still have some anxiety problems. I'm still a very anxious person in general. And horror movies actually make me feel better about that. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you think about it, at first glance, horror movies shouldn't make you better. They should bring up those feelings of anxiety. They should bring up those feelings of fear. And they do. And I think that's exactly the reason why I feel better whenever I watch a horror movie. The thing is, as with everything when it comes to anxiety and depression and other mental health issues, the solutions are never clear-cut. They always work for some people and they always don't work for other people. So horror movies aren't exactly a solution, but they do make me feel better. Although I know a lot of that have anxiety problems, a lot of people that, you know, deal with anxiety disorders and such, they feel actually worse whenever they watch those films. But I've looked it up, and apparently a lot of people also feel like me, feel better whenever they watch those. And I think that's because you're actually living those things. No, you're not living those things. You're actually living those feelings. You're feeling those feelings in a way that doesn't directly affect you. That cannot directly affect you. So you're there and you're watching a movie and you're feeling anxious, you're feeling afraid, not because you think your friends hate you or that paper you sent wasn't good enough or because you're too old to start doing something or you're not going anywhere or any of that. You're afraid and you're feeling really afraid sometimes the movie is shit, but you're feeling really afraid because of a demon or a ghost or, I don't know, a really elaborate break-in or a serial killer, or I don't know, a doll. Also, going back to that really quick, I think one of the things that movie specifically did well is the ferryman. We're gonna get into spoiler territory very quickly, so if you haven't watched the movie, you can skip until this time here. The ferryman is really well made, I think, because it works on the whole not seen thing. There are very few moments in which you actually see the ferryman. You see a lot of the coins, you see a lot of signs that it's there, a lot of its victims. You actually see a lot of its victims. They're more like clutter. He uses his victims as decoration items pretty much. But it's interesting. It's really interesting because they are there and you never really see him. I think the scene in which the character, which I'm not gonna say who it is walking down a dark hallway and you can actually see the two coins behind her just lurking in the shadow, but you can't actually see the thing that has the coin eyes. It's really well made. I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie, if not the best scene in the movie, because you're not seeing it, and it's really anxiety inducing. I think the whole not scene works way better than when you actually see the demon, the monster, the doll, the serial killer. A dark presence on the corner of your eye is much scarier than anything else, I think. And that's why actually I think H.P. Lovecraft works so well. Cosmic horror. That's why I think cosmic horror works so well, for me at least. Because you never really understand what's going on. There's no way you can actually understand it, and that's what's scary about it. It's not comprehensible by a person, and that's what's scary about it. You're not seeing it. It works on the atmosphere of the thing, which is again why this works very well. This scene works very well. It has really good atmosphere. The rest of the movie, again, kinda meh. Horror movies. Apparently a lot of people feel better whenever they watch horror movies when it comes to anxiety because of that thing I was mentioning earlier. You're feeling those feelings, you're actually, I don't know, in a way dumping those feelings onto situations that cannot directly affect you. You're dumping those feelings because you're afraid a demon is gonna, I don't know, take the soul of a little girl in a dark house. It's really hard for people to actually relate to that. I don't know about you, I've never been haunted by a demon. It brings out a lot of those experiences. It brings out a lot of, it brings out a lot of the anxiety in a way in which you can actually deal with it. I think, because it doesn't directly affect you. It brings those feelings up, it makes you think you're feeling those things, and you actually are. You are feeling fear, but since it's a controlled environment, like I said, since it's not actually happening to you, since you're, I don't know, in a cozy living room, it's just there. It's just fiction. You're dumping those feelings in a work of fiction, and that works well. That makes you learn, I think, a bit how to deal with those feelings without the consequences of actually living the things that make you feel desperate. Because I get very desperate. I mean, the whole thing about my channel is that I'm a desperate person, a chilly person. It's sarcasm. I'm not chilly at all. I have no chill, zero chill in my body. But normally, when I come out of horror movies, I have some chill in my body. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. And Annabelle Comes Home, in some pieces, does evoke those feelings, does make me feel less anxious because it does make me worried. Also, I think it's really interesting in that movie specifically because although it's not the greatest, at least there's something there that didn't happen in The Nun, didn't happen in a lot of other horror movies, didn't happen to Curse La Llorona. It's really interesting being a Latino that doesn't speak Spanish. Which is, characters actually have motivation. Characters in this movie all have some pretty decent motivation. There aren't a lot of characters, so, you know, there's that. But most characters in this movie have some pretty decent motivations. It's really interesting. The movie also has some tone shifts that don't really work. Because, I mean, sometimes it's comedy, sometimes it's horror. The whole thing about Bob just doesn't work for me. There's a hair thing in my face. Wait. Yeah, hair. Yeah, I think that's my point. I really like horror movies. And I think they make me feel way better when I finish watching them. Because, again, I'm feeling those feelings, I'm feeling the anxiety in a way that cannot affect me. And that actually, you know, is somewhat cathartic. But then again, it's not the same for everyone. A lot of people feel terrified when they watch horror movies, and it just makes their anxiety way worse than it was before. Mental health issues and their solutions, not that horror movies are necessarily a solution, differ a lot from person to person. And it's important to remember that. Please don't force yourself to watch a movie that you know it's gonna make you feel worse. Yeah, I guess this is my point. Works for some people, it doesn't work for some people. Annabelle Comes Home is okay. It's an okay movie. Yeah, it's an okay film. I'm gonna give it that. That's it. Have a nice day, I guess. Woo! Yeah. Bye.